Tonight we're stepping into one of the most overglorified, under-rested jobs in the ancient world, being a Roman emperor. You might think it comes with grapes, gold, and godlike praise. Sure, but also ulcers, daggers, and a solid risk of being stabbed before lunch. You'll wake in silk, stretch under painted ceilings, and be handed fruit that someone else peeled for you, all while knowing that half the Senate hopes today is your last. From bathhouses full of whispers to scrolls demanding executions, today's schedule is tight. And yes, you'll have to look solemn while pretending you understand the latest tax crisis in Gaul. But don't worry, we'll walk through it all together. From imperial breakfasts to secret assassins, you'll feel every cobbled floor, breathe every incense-laced corridor, and hear the shuffle of sandals in the marble halls. And if curious little journeys like this make you smile, or exhale slowly and think, that's oddly peaceful, feel free to subscribe. No pressure, only if it feels right. It'll be here every night, guiding you through forgotten histories, one slow breath at a time. Now, let the city quiet, the palace hush, and let's begin. You wake before the sun does, not because you're ready, but because the palace never truly sleeps. There's no alarm, no rooster, just a soft creak of sandal against marble outside your chamber, and the weight of velvet sheets that smell faintly of olive oil, citrus peel, and something else you can't name, something floral, but old. Your eyes open slowly. Above you is a ceiling covered in gold leaf and fading blue paint, a sky captured in plaster. Someone paid dearly for that, probably in coin, possibly in blood. You blink once, twice. You don't sit up yet. The pillow is stuffed with swan down, not too soft, not too firm. Your head fits into it like it remembers the shape of your indecision. Your right shoulder aches from yesterday's statue unveiling, standing still for that long shouldn't hurt, and yet it does. There's a rustle by the curtain, not loud, just a shift in the way the fabric breathes. Servants. You don't see them. You don't have to. They know better than to speak first. You sigh, quietly, because even emperors need a minute. The sheets slide off your chest like they've been waiting to leave you. Cool air touches your skin, the kind that carries incense and stone dust, the kind that doesn't ask permission. You sit up, slowly, deliberately, not because you're stiff, but because your spine now belongs to history. One wrong movement, and the scribes might write you down as weak of posture. The floor is cold, polished to a mirror's sheen. Your feet press into it. The chill climbs up your calves, sharp and invigorating. You pretend it doesn't make you flinch. You're the emperor. You do not flinch. The silence in the room is practiced. Not true silence. There's the faint scrape of cloth, the gentle clink of metal trays being carried, the muted splash of water being poured into a basin you'll never touch yourself. But no one talks. No one hums. No one coughs. You could rule for 20 years and never hear your chambermaid's voice. The robe they offer you is red, deep, heavy red, the kind dyed with things crushed by slaves. The fabric smells faintly of cedar chests, and last winter, it's warm when they drape it across your shoulders. Though you know it was folded cold, you stretch your arms out, and 4 pairs of hands move without instruction, tying, tucking, smoothing. Someone adjusts the golden clasp near your collarbone. You glance at them, not in thanks, just in habit. They don't meet your eyes. They're not allowed to. You're not a man to them. You're the sun at midday, distant, dangerous, and best admired sideways. Your first words of the day aren't prayers or poetry. They're questions, or commands disguised as questions. Is the governor from Britannia still waiting? Has the grain shipment arrived? Has anyone tried to poison me this week? You don't ask that last one out loud? Not anymore. It lost its charm after the fourth time. They bring you a plate. Grapes, already peeled. Bread, crusts trimmed. A piece of honeycomb that glistens like amber. You chew slowly, not because you're savoring it, but because you know someone, somewhere, is watching to see if you hesitate, if your throat catches, if your eyes widen. Even breakfast is theater. The window shutters are opened. Light spills in, soft and golden, casting long lines across the floor. You see the garden beyond trimmed hedges. 2 marble lions. A slave sweeping petals into a basket. He doesn't look up. He doesn't have to. His presence is decoration, not labor. You turn your head. Beyond the garden, the city is waking. You hear it faintly, the call of a vendor, the creak of carts, the echo of sandals on stone. All of it, theoretically, belongs to you. The people, the marble, the dust in the corners. You've been told this since the day they called you divine. You don't always believe it. Your body is awake now. Your fingers flex. You roll your neck gently to one side, then the other. No cracking sound today. That's good. The last time, your physician wrote an entire scroll about posture and early decline. You stand. The robe settles around you like smoke. The sandals are placed precisely. Left, then right. You step into them. The leather is soft, worn just enough to feel molded to you. You take one step, then another, and the chamber doors open before you reach them. A man is waiting there. He bows so deeply. You can see the thinning of his hair. You pretend not to. He says nothing, just gestures toward the inner hall. The day has begun. The empire is waiting. And all you want, truly, desperately, is 5 more minutes under that golden ceiling. But that's not how this works. You are the emperor. You don't get 5 more minutes. You get eternity if you're lucky. You walk slowly through the corridor, not because you're tired, though you are, but because moving too quickly feels like admitting the day has already won. The air is cool here, wrapped in the scent of crushed myrrh and the faint, damp echo of stone that never fully dries. Each footfall lands in near silence, absorbed by layers of linen and centuries of ritual. Ahead of you, the doors open one by one, not by magic, but by men trained to disappear before you see them. The world around you is made of footsteps you never hear, and gestures you're never meant to acknowledge. The first room is quiet, not empty, never empty, but quiet in that special way a room becomes when everyone inside knows they aren't meant to exist. The attendants are already in place. Some kneel beside scrolls. Others stand beside polished tables of silver and wax. No one breathes louder than a whisper. You nod once. That's enough. A servant steps forward, hands outstretched, offering the day's first scroll. You don't look at him, only at the parchment, slightly curled at the edges, the seal still warm. You break it with a thumb. It's a name, just a name, but behind it, an entire trial, a theft, a punishment, a request. You scan it slowly. The ink is dark and thick, applied by someone nervous. You can feel it in the way the letters tremble. You set it down. A second scroll is offered. Another name. Another life suspended by your signature. You read this one. 2. Your hand hovers over the wax stamp beside you. You press down, firm, but not rushed. The wax accepts the weight without resistance. They take it from you, like it's holy. You barely blink. Another servant adjusts the hem of your robe behind you. You feel the slight tug near your ankle. A brief flick of motion. Hell be gone by the time you turn around. Not because he's fast, but because you're not supposed to remember his face. That's the rule. You are the axis. They are the gears. And no one worships gears. There's a tray near your elbow. A cup of something warm. Spiced wine diluted with honey. You sip it slowly, though you barely taste it. The warmth moves through your chest like a memory. Someone clears their throat near the wall. Very softly. A subtle signal. The next scroll arrives. You open it. Another signature. Another decision only you can make. But you don't feel powerful. You feel surrounded. A man enters through a side door. Not a servant. An advisor. He bows. Says your name as though it weighs something heavy in his mouth. You don't respond. He speaks of a rebellion in the South. Small. Contained. Nothing to worry about. He says, but his hands fidget at his sides. You notice? You always notice. He asks what should be done. His voice is low, respectful, a touch too rehearsed. You raise a hand. He bows again, retreats. No one here wants you to speak unless necessary. Even your words are rationed. Like the grain they tally each season. You lean back in the chair. The cushion beneath you sighs under the weight. You close your eyes for just a moment. Just enough to remember that somewhere, far beneath these floors, someone is baking bread. Someone is lighting a candle. Someone is not waiting for your permission to breathe. A bell rings, gently 2 soft notes. A signal. It's time to move. The robes are adjusted again. The scrolls are gathered. The table cleared in perfect silence. You rise. The air shifts around you. The doors open again, revealing the next chamberone with even more people pretending not to be people. You walk. They part, and no one, not a single one of them, meets your eyes. Because they were taught long ago, the emperor does not need to be seen. He only needs to be obeyed. The room is already lit when you arrive, though the sun has only just begun its climb. Pale light filters in through tall, arched windows. Where silk curtains shift faintly in a breeze you do not feel. The walls are lined with paintings, victories. Mostly, men on horseback, cities burning behind them, gods pointing approvingly from the clouds. It's all a bit much for this hour, but this is where you eat. Not because it's the most comfortable room in the palace, but because it's the most visible. There's always someone watching. A senator's nephew, lingering too long in the corridor. A servant standing still a little too perfectly. The walls may not have ears, but the fruit bowls probably do. The table is long. You only sit at one end. A wide bronze dish rests in front of you, arranged with deliberate care sliced figs, dates, small rounds of cheese, and peeled grapes, always peeled. You've never asked for that, but once, when they weren't, the kitchen master apologized before you even noticed. You chew slowly, always slowly, not just for digestion, but because it buys you time to think. About the letter from Gaul, about the priest who wants an audience, about whether or not you actually like figs. A servant approaches with a silver pitcher. His hands don't shake. That's a relief. The last one trembled so badly, He was reassigned to torch maintenance. You nod without looking up. The wine pours smoothly, diluted with snowmelt, scented with something floral. You're not sure what. You sip it. It tastes clean, if a little cold. Across the room, someone clears their throat, deliberately, but softly. Another advisor. Another report. You glance at him. His eyes are tired, but his posture is perfect. He starts listing numbers, grain tallies, tax collections, troop movements along the eastern road. You hear all of it. You remember some. You respond with a nod. Then a single word continue. He does. You finish your fig. A scribe enters. You know his steps by sound. He waits near the column. You hold out your hand. The scroll he offers is warm, fresh from the ink room. You unroll it. It's a speech. For tomorrow. Or next week. You're not sure. The day is too long to know where it ends. The words are written in soft flourishes. Glory, providence, divine light through Caesar. You skim them. You won't say half of this, but it pleases the Senate to write them, and it pleases the people to hear them. So you let the words pass through you like incense sweet, hollow, weightless. Someone brings bread. You break it in half. The crust is crisp, the center warm. You dip it lightly into a bowl of pressed oil and salt. Your fingers glisten. You wipe them on the cloth, embroidered with your initials, not yours. Really. But the title passed down. You don't know who stitched it. You've never asked. Beyond the window, the sun touches the rooftops of the city. Clay tiles glow gold for a moment, then fade back to red. You can see the river from here. Barely. Just a line of silver that curves through the chaos. Boats drift slowly across it, some carrying goods, others passengers. One or two probably spies. You watch for a long time, long enough that the servants pause, unsure whether to speak, whether to clear the table, whether to move. You glance back at them, nod once. The table empties in seconds. You stand. Your knees ache more than usual. Not enough to mention, just enough to notice. A man approaches your physician, or perhaps one of his apprentices. He holds a folded cloth with a small vial inside. He offers it silently. A tonic. Preventative. Allegedly. You take it. Swallow, without asking what it is. He bows and retreats. You've taken worse. There's a mirror across the room. Tall, narrow, framed in bronze. You don't look at it often. Today, you do. Just for a second. Your reflection is tired, upright, cloaked in red and morning dust. You see the crown knot on your head, but near your shoulder, on the table where it always waits. You don't pick it up. Not yet. You turn away. The city still hums beyond the walls. The day stretches before you, like a parade no one invited you to lead. And breakfast for now is done. You walk down the central hall with the slow, measured pace of someone who knows the walls are listening. The sandals on your feet barely make a sound, but somehow the marble still speaks, each step echoing just enough to remind you that you are being heard. Even when no one speaks, columns rise around you, tall and cold, carved with scenes of triumph and mercy, scenes that were ordered, not remembered. Each figure etched in stone bows slightly toward the center, as if even the architecture is trained to obey. The ceiling is high, distant, a sky of pale blue paint and gold stars that no one looks up to admire anymore. Your eyes remain level. You know this hall too well. You know which tiles have a slight dip, You know which torch holders haven't been dusted since the last eclipse. You know the rhythm. 37 steps to the next chamber. 37 steps to adjust your shoulders, even your breath, and prepare your face for what comes next. You pass servants. They bow, low and smooth, their eyes never lifting above your belt. Some carry scrolls. Others carry trays with nothing on them just to look busy. You don't slow down. You don't need to. They move like water around you. Clear, silent, obedient. Their presence is like furniture, noticed only when missing. 2 guards wait at the bronze doors ahead. Not statues, but close. Their armor catches the light like mirrors. One wears a scratch along his jaw that wasn't there yesterday. You don't ask. The doors open at your approach, not quickly, not theatrically, just wide enough, just in time, as if they too have learned to respect your pace. Inside, the room is full of breath held in unison. Advisors stand in semicircles, robes neatly arranged, scrolls clutched to chests like fragile secrets. A few senators are here early, which means someone is nervous. You don't comment. You step to your platform, a half circle of polished stone raised 3 steps above the rest, not high enough to be out of reach, just high enough to remind them that you do not descend. You sit, slowly, deliberately. The chair is firm, carved from oak, older than your title, older than most of these men. The cushion is thin. The discomfort is tradition. A scribe steps forward, unfurls the first scroll. His voice is soft, steady, and colorless like rain in a garden. He reads updates: a warehouse fire, a failed tribute shipment, a local magistrate requesting an increase in soldiers. You nod. You ask nothing. Not yet. A senator clears his throat. It's not part of the ritual. It's a request. You glance his way. He steps forward, hands clasped, voice calm but eager. He talks about loyalty, about grain shortages, about trade imbalances. The words are chosen carefully, but they all mean one thing: someone has taken more than their share, and he wants to take it back. You let him speak for a while. His face flushes by the 3rd sentence, not with fear, with excitement. Men love to speak when they believe you are listening. You tilt your head slightly. He stops. You say one word. He bows, steps back. He will not speak again today. The next voice is younger, a man with ink on his fingers and a ribbon pinned to his sleeve, hoping to be remembered. He brings news from the coast. Pirates, always pirates. They've taken 2 ships. You nod once. He says he has recommendations. You raise a hand. No need. The admiral was notified yesterday. The pirates are already ash. He doesn't look surprised, just disappointed. You shift in your seat. The marble floor beneath you seems to pulse faintly with the weight of eyes. No one makes a sound unless you allow it. Even the air feels filtered. You speak only when needed. Your words are few. Each one ripples. You dismiss the court with a breath. They bow, all of them. A rustle of fabric, a susurrus of obedience. The room empties slowly. No one rushes. No one wants to look like they're fleeing. You remain seated for a moment longer. The echo of your own silence follows you down the back corridor. And once again, the marble speaks, but only to those who remember how to listen. You step into the scribe's chamber, not as a man, but as a hand, the hand that signs, seals, and sentences. The room is cooler than the hall behind you, lined with long wooden tables slick with oil and time. their surfaces crowded with scrolls rolled so tightly they look like sleeping snakes. The air smells faintly of melted wax, old ink, and linen dust. Not unpleasant, just dry. Like pages that haven't been turned in years. A small brazier burns near the far wall, not for warmth, but to soften the wax faster. It flickers as you pass, casting soft shadows that crawl across the stone. 3 scribes are waiting. They bow as one, spines curving smoothly, quills resting against their palms like extensions of their fingers. They don't speak, not until you're seated, and even then, only when called. You lower yourself onto the writing bench. The cushion has flattened with years of weight, but it holds your shape without question. A sheet of parchment is unrolled before you, blank, but not for long. The chief scribe approaches with the first document. It's already prepared. Names written in careful script, titles precisely spaced. All that's missing is your hand, your decision, your weight in ink. You take the pen. It's heavier than you expect every time. The shaft is carved from bone, the nib newly sharpened. It bites into the parchment with a hiss when you begin the first stroke. Your signature curves with practiced gravity broad at the start, narrowing at the end like a river disappearing into reed grass. A bowl of sand is passed to you, fine and white. You tip it gently over the ink. The grains fall like snow, slow and dry, soaking up the gloss until the name becomes part of the page. You brush it away with the side of your palm. The ink stays. The sand scatters. One judgment made, another scroll, another decree. This one is about land. A boundary shift between 2 families who have argued for years. You've never met them, never will. But your signature decides who sleeps beside a vineyard and who sleeps beside a fence. The words are neutral, but you know someone will cry and someone will feast. You press the seal into warm wax. The emblem hisses against it. When it's lifted, your authority is permanent. The scribe doesn't thank you. He only takes the scroll away like it's fragile, like it carries the breath of gods. He returns with another. This one is shorter, just a single name, a punishment. You read it once, then again, then fold the corner of the parchment with your finger before signing. You don't pause because you're uncertain. You pause because the silence is thick, and sometimes even an emperor needs time to float through it. Your signature is slower this time, smaller, more precise. You don't speak, but you know they're watching. Not your face, your hand, the way it moves, the pressure it applies, the time it takes to say this life ends now. You sign 4 more. Each scroll disappears as quickly as it comes, passed from hand to hand like fire down a line of oil lamps. They pile them into a wooden case lined with lambskin, bound with red ribbon, sealed with wax. It will be carried to the court chamber, read aloud in your voice, though not by your tongue. You lean back, let your hand rest on the edge of the table. The ink stains your fingertips, a small black smudge where your thumb pressed the nib too hard. You rub it once, but it doesn't fade. A final scribe approaches, he's younger than the others, but just as quiet. He places a narrow sheet before you, not a decree, not a death, a letter from the east. The seal is foreign blue wax, marked with an emblem you haven't seen in months. You break it, slowly. The parchment unfolds stiffly, as if it dislikes being touched. The letter is short. No war. Not yet. But the tone has changed. You fold it in half, then again, then place it beneath a stone on the table. The scribes do not ask what it said. They never do. You stand. Your knees creak faintly. Your fingertips are still stained. And outside this quiet room, 100 decisions wait to be made, none of them written yet, but all of them yours. You leave the chamber slowly, the scent of parchment and ink still clinging faintly to the folds of your robe, and step once more into the open corridor where light filters through high, narrow windows and dust hangs like breath caught midair. The marble beneath your feet is polished smooth, not by cloth, but by centuries of footsteps, most of them forgotten, all of them echoing quietly behind yours now. You move forward not because you wish to, but because everything here is arranged to make stillness feel like failure. On either side of you stand statues, dozens, rows of men carved in robes and breastplates, eyes staring straight ahead, chins tilted in quiet defiance, mouths closed forever. Some bear weapons, others scrolls, most bear only time. Their faces are idealized calm, symmetrical, eternal. Their names are etched below them. Though many have been worn down by wind and by memory, you do not read them. You've walked this way too many times. You know the ones that matter. The rest are reminders. Stone warnings dressed as legacy. You pause before one, the fourth on the left. He has your nose, your hands. His robe drapes in the same way yours does now, though his is frozen in place and yours still moves when the wind brushes through the corridor. He ruled for 9 years, or perhaps 11. The scrolls disagree. He died in his bath, or was suffocated by a slave. The stories shift. The statue remains. You look into his eyes, carved so carefully they seem almost real, almost soft, until you remember he hasn't blinked in over a century, and neither have the others. You turn away. Your own face will stand here someday. You know that. Not because you asked for it, but because someone, somewhere, has already ordered the marble, already chosen the angle of your jaw, already begun the first chisel stroke that will try to convince the future that you were calm, wise, and never tired. They will give you the same eyes, the ones that never close. Further down the hall, another figure waits, not carved in stone, but wrapped in thick fabric and bowed low. A messenger, thin, pale, his feet dusty. He doesn't rise. He only offers a scroll, held up like a confession. You take it, break the seal, read the first line. It's news from the provinces. A drought. Again, you don't sigh. There's no use for it. Instead, you fold the scroll, tuck it inside your sleeve, and nod. The man bows again, still lower. You're not sure he breathes until he's gone. You keep walking. More statues, more faces that look just slightly like yours. Not enough to be family, just enough to be expectation. You wonder, sometimes, how many of them hated this hall. How many stared back at their stone doubles and thought, no one asked me. No one warned me. No one told me that to be remembered meant being watched forever, even by faces that cannot see. You reach the archway at the end. The doors are open. Light spills in, and you walk forward under eyes that never blink toward a day that always watches. You enter the next hall with the practiced calm of someone who knows their footsteps are not the only thing echoing. The walls here are draped in rich cloth dark reds and deep ochre shanging like theater curtains from ceiling to floor, softening the sound of movement, muffling speech. catching secrets before they hit stone. The air is warmer here, heavier, less public, less open. This is not a space for declarations. It's for listening, for watching without turning your head, for pausing long enough to hear what no one is saying out loud. You walk slower now, not out of caution, but precision. Each step is measured, deliberate. The soles of your sandals touch the inlaid floor with gentle certainty. And still, you can feel the hush behind the fabric. Someone is there. Not one person. Many. You never see them. But their presence is certain like wind against a flame, like breath on the back of your neck. The curtains shift slightly, though the air around you feels still. Not quite a breeze, not quite silence. They're not spying. Not exactly. They're just waiting. Not for a mistake, but for a moment. The kind that opens just wide enough to slip through. You keep your eyes forward. A voice speaks behind one of the curtains. Not to you, to someone else. The words are clipped, but not harsh. You don't need to know what was said. The tone is enough. A senator's aide, perhaps, or a scribe too comfortable near walls meant for emperors. You pass by without reacting. That, too, is practice. You've learned that power doesn't flinch. It glides. At the far end of the hall, a tall man waits. His robe is modest, but the rings on his fingers are not. He bows low, but not deeply. His eyes meet yours for a breath too long. He asks if you've had time to consider the proposal he sent last week. You say nothing at first. Just walk past him, then stop. Turn your head slightly. We're still reading. You say, "It's not a lie. It's not the truth. It's the shape of both." He smiles, nods, thanks you, bows again, and behind him, two servants disappear behind another curtain. Quickly, too quickly. You let them go. The next door is opened before you reach it. Inside, the room is smaller, quieter. A single desk, a single scroll, a single chair that no one else is allowed to sit in. You take it. A messenger stands in the corner, unmoving. He delivers his words in a low monotone. There's been unrest in the northern garrisons. Supplies were late. Payment delayed. The soldiers are angry. The prefect is nervous. You say nothing until he finishes. Then you reach for the wax seal. Press it into the letter that will send grain. Not gold. Enough to ease, but not enough to spoil. The balance must hold. The messenger bows and leaves without waiting for dismissal. You remain seated. The room is still. Your hands rest on the arms of the chair, fingers curled loosely, the way they do when you're thinking too fast to speak. Behind the walls, you can still hear faint movement, a cough, the sound of parchment being folded, a name whispered too softly to catch. Not yours, never yours. They're careful now. The last man who whispered your name behind a curtain was reassigned to the mines, or the kitchens. You don't remember? You rise slowly, adjust your robe, take one breath, and then another. And when you walk back into the hall, the curtains are still, but you can feel them watching, because here, in this palace, silence is never quiet, and walls are never empty. You step outside into a courtyard not built for nature, but for display and arrangement of color, stone, and silence curated carefully over decades, possibly centuries, by men who feared the wilderness yet wanted to be seen strolling through something that looked like it. The sunlight doesn't touch you directly at first. filtered through a lattice of carved marble overhead, its shapes dancing faintly across the path with the slow, lazy rhythm of wind. You inhale deeply. The scent is soft blossoms crushed under morning heat, watered earth, and something resinous from the tall cypress trees standing like guards in green armor around the edges. The ground beneath you is patterned mosaic, damp in places where a servant has passed just minutes before with a copper jug, rinsing the path so it doesn't gather dust. The tiles are cool under your sandals. You walk slowly, not out of caution, but reverence. This is one of the few places where the walls do not lean in to listen. No carved statues here, no hung tapestries, just open sky above, and the illusion that you are free beneath it. Vines climb the columns, their leaves glossy and well-behaved. Purple flowers bloom just high enough to remain unreachable. They were chosen for their symbolism, victory, restraint, divine order, but you've long since stopped pretending to care about their names. They exist to be seen, not understood. Like so much else around you, you follow the curved path through the hedge, where the garden bends inward toward a still pool of water long, shallow, perfectly rectangular. Its surface mirrors the world. And when you pause to look, you don't see yourself, only sky, the reflection of clouds that move too slowly to follow. A bee circles near your ear, then leaves without consequence. A moment, nothing more. There is a bench here, stone and shaded. The cushion removed sometime in early summer. You don't sit, though the thought tempts you. You remain standing, your robe shifting slightly in the breeze. Beyond the garden, rooftops stretch toward the hills. You can't hear the streets, but you know they're there, bakers shouting over ovens, sandals slapping cobblestone, wheels creaking under the weight of grain. The city breathes while you pretend to rest. A servant appears beside you. You didn't hear him arrive. He carries a small folded note delivered by hand. No seal. That means it's from someone close. You take it gently. Unfold it once. No greeting. Just 5 words, written in a sharp, narrow hand. They are meeting without you. You read it again. Fold it smaller. Hand it back. Say nothing. You walk on, past a marble sundial where no one checks the time, past a bed of herbs arranged in the shape of your family crest, past a statue of a goddess whose name was forgotten before your grandfather's reign. You pause there, briefly, your eyes tracing the curve of her arm, the way her fingers hold a scroll as if deciding whether to open it. She never will. Her mouth is open, but she cannot speak. You understand that. You move again. The garden ends where the colonnade begins. Shade welcoming you back with its long breath of cool air. Another corridor, another servant, another scroll waiting by the entrance to the war chamber. You take it. You do not open it. Not yet. Because for a moment, just one moment, you had almost convinced yourself that this place, with its painted petals and silenced fountains, could let you forget. But emperors do not forget. They only pause, then return to the path. The room is warm, but not from sunlight. It's the kind of warmth that comes from too many bodies in one space, from the press of robes and breath and ambition layered thick like perfume. You step inside without announcement. You don't need one. The air adjusts as you enter. Voices dip just slightly. Posture sharpens. And suddenly, even the laughter seems rehearsed. These are not servants, not soldiers. These are men with titles longer than their loyalty. Men who speak your name with reverence and say something entirely different with their eyes. They bow some deep. Others with the barest tilt of the head. The ones who lower their gaze are the ones you watch most carefully. You've learned that over time. It's not the loud ones, not the ones who flatter. It's the ones who smile without showing teeth, who offer their opinions only when asked, who listen too closely when you speak. You sit. The chair is centered at the round table. Its legs are carved lions. Though you've never liked them, they feel too smug. The wood is darker here, the grain polished from decades of elbows and finger taps and invisible pressure. A steward pours wine into your cup, dark and fragrant, then vanishes. A tray of dates sits nearby, untouched. No one reaches for them yet. No one wants to be the first to move. The discussion begins with pleasantries. How lovely the new statues look near the western courtyard. How the eastern vineyards are promising an early harvest. How the weather, unusually mild this season, must be a blessing from the gods. You nod once, maybe twice. You don't speak. Not yet. The silence stretches, just long enough to remind them who holds the edge of every conversation. Then the first request arrives. The governor seeks funds to repair a flooded bridge. Reasonable, necessary, but the senator delivering the message avoids your eyes as he speaks, his fingers tapping gently against the scroll as if urging it to speak for him. You ask one question. How many soldiers crossed it last month? He doesn't know. Someone beside him does. The answer is lower than expected. You nod. The request will be considered. The scroll is taken away. The senator exhales, but only through his nose. Another voice rises, confident, a man whose family name once meant power, though now it only means persistence. He smiles as he speaks, smooth and broad, his tone wrapped in silk. He suggests a change, a small one, a reassignment of duties in a province too distant for most in this room to care about. But not you. You've seen this pattern before. One man moved means another gained space, and somewhere behind the suggestion, someone else is losing. You don't respond. You ask if the new appointee is in the city. He is. Convenient. You instruct someone to summon him. Later. Privately. The man at the table smiles again, but his fingers stop moving. The room shifts. There is a rhythm to these meetings, an unspoken music played through glances and pauses. They speak in turns, careful not to interrupt, careful to agree, just enough. Disagreement comes in layers here, not in words, in emphasis, in who chooses to nod first, and who waits half a second longer. You recognize each tactic. You've used them all. A moment of silence falls. No one fills it. This is when you speak. Your voice is low, even, the kind that doesn't rise or strain. You ask a question, not because you need an answer, but because you want to watch who looks surprised. You observe, the one who stiffens, the one who hides his cup behind his sleeve, the one who suddenly finds interest in the scroll he's not reading. No one betrays you today, but they are practicing. The meeting ends with shallow bows and muttered thanks. Footsteps fading unevenly down the corridor. Robes brushing like whispers behind closed doors. You remain seated, your cup half full, the warmth long gone. A servant clears the table quietly, removes the tray of dates untouched. You don't stop him. You lean back. The lions beneath your arms do not roar. They only watch. And outside, beyond the columned windows, the day darkens slightly, just enough to notice, just enough to remind you power doesn't rest, and neither do those who want it. You return to the smaller chamber just past the south arch, the one with tall slatted windows and the quietest floor in the palace, stone polished so smooth it barely remembers sound. The air here is different, cooler despite the hour, as if the walls have held too many secrets for too long and now exhale them in soft, steady silence. A scroll chest waits by the table, its lid already open. Inside, a neat arrangement of papyrus, each sealed with a different mark, different wax, different handwriting, yet all of them written to you. You sit slowly, letting your weight settle into the chair that was carved for function, not comfort. Its arms are plain, the wood hard, but it holds you well. A steward retrieves the first scroll with practiced care and lays it across the table. You break the seal gently, thumb pressing into the blue wax. The edge of the parchment crackles as you unroll it. It's from the northern frontier, a commander's hand firm, efficient. The ink is slightly blurred in places, perhaps from moisture or from haste. He writes of weather, of soldiers fatigued, of border skirmishes too small to name, too frequent to ignore. The grain shipment has been delayed. The river froze too early this year. Morale is thinning like stretched wool. You read the letter twice. You do not sigh. The next scroll is shorter. It's from a coastal province. They request more funds for harbor repair and more men to defend the trading routes. A local rebellion, once quiet, now flickers like an unattended flame. You note the wording. It's careful, too careful. A governor trying not to seem overwhelmed, but also desperate not to seem forgotten. You place it aside. A third scroll, then a fourth. Some bring news of order. Others ask for decisions. One simply contains a list of names: farmers, merchants, freedmen, each one marked with a symbol, a reason, a request for judgment. You scan them, recognizing none, but each name feels real, too real. You pause over one, a girl, 15, accused of theft, caught with a stolen ring in her hand and fear in her mouth. The magistrate recommends exile. You recommend mercy. You press your seal down more slowly than usual, as if the wax might understand. A cup of barley tea is placed beside you. You drink without speaking. The warmth is grounding, the taste faintly bitter. It reminds you of simpler things: field kitchens, evening smoke, the sound of wood cracking under weight. Things far from this chamber, things you'll never return to. Another scroll arrives, this one thick, its seal foreign, cracked with age. You open it carefully, revealing a letter written not in formal script, but in hurried, wide strokes. It comes from across the sea, from a region once called friend, now described as distant. They speak of famine, drought, a missing envoy. The message is not accusatory, but the silence behind its words feels sharp. You fold it slowly, set it aside for the inner council. Some questions need more than a signature. You glance to the edge of the table. A map rests there unrolled, faded, the edges curling upward like old bark. Your eyes trace the inked borders, the roads drawn by someone who never walked them, cities marked in red, rivers in blue. The edges are fraying, not just the map, the empire, too large, too restless, too proud to notice its own trembling. You stand. At last, the tea is cold now. The scrolls have been answered. But more will come tomorrow. They always do. And each one will wait with ink that expects your silence to speak. The midday meal is waiting, though you never asked for it. And truthfully, you're not hungry, not in the way the body aches for food, but in the way custom demands you appear nourished. The room is small by imperial standards, meant to feel private even when nothing in your life truly is. The table is low, wide, draped in a cloth embroidered with curling patterns of vines and birds and distant myths, though you rarely look down long enough to notice. Everything is set before you, with precision bowls of pomegranate seeds glistening in a bed of crushed mint, lamb carved into silent slices, olives, dark and oiled, arranged in spirals like offerings to an unseen god. You take your seat, and a golden spoon rests beside your plate, its curve reflecting the light in slow, amber arcs. You lift it slowly, letting the weight settle into your fingers. It is heavier than it needs to be. But then again, so is everything else. You bring the first bite to your mouth, chewing not for taste, but for ritual. The flavor is pleasant, hun-eyed, warm, sharp with spice, but distant. It barely lands. Across the table, no one sits. You haven't shared this meal in weeks, maybe months. The seats are arranged just in case. For senators, for generals, for poets who've fallen out of favor but haven't yet realized it. Today, the room remains still. Only the sound of serving dishes being replaced, soft and practiced, fills the space. Even the silence here is choreographed. A steward approaches and murmurs something beneath his breath. A request. Again, from the inner courta matter of public discipline. Someone needing to be seen. Someone needing to be punished. You raise your hand without a word, a gesture that means yes. Carry it forward. The steward nods and retreats. The food before you cools slowly, untouched. You reach for the wine instead. It's a pale blend, fragrant with rosemary and something floral. It tastes of effort, of ceremony, of vineyards groomed more for status than yield. You sip slowly, letting the warmth spread through your chest. It doesn't comfort, but it occupies a kind of anchor. Somewhere outside, a trumpet sounds faintly. Not for you. Likely for a ceremony you approved weeks ago and forgot the moment the scroll was sealed. The city continues. Markets breathe. Theaters open. Priests chant their liturgies. Children chase each other in narrow alleyways. Far from this table. Far from this chair. Far from the gravity that keeps you tethered to decisions that taste like figs and ash. You glance at the spoon again. It gleams. Beautiful. Useless. An object forged to be seen, not used. A symbol of plenty in a world where hunger never truly vanishes. It reminds you, without speaking, that the rituals of power often outlive the reasons for them. You place it down softly. Your appetite, never full, now fades. The meal ends as quietly as it began. And once again, you rise, not because you finished, but because the empire demands something else. It always does. You step into the outer courtyard through a narrow door, half hidden behind a column, one of the few spaces not meant for spectacle. A place tucked gently between towering wings of marble and politics, where the air smells faintly of crushed leaves and warm stone and something older still. The sunlight here filters through a single laurel tree, its branches gnarled but generous, casting shadows that sway slowly across the tiled floor, like drifting thoughts you haven't caught yet. The ground is uneven, patched with moss in the corners, and the bench simple, flat, worn smooth from years of waiting, rests beneath the canopy as if it belongs to someone long gone, someone who once sat in silence just as you do now. You don't speak. You don't move at first. You simply sit, exhale, and listen to the sound of leaves brushing against each other, soft and irregular, like a secret being whispered just beyond understanding. No one follows you here. Not the scribes, not the guards, not even the boy with the messages who seems to appear before you've asked. Here, the world slows, not because time is kind, but because for a few precious minutes, it forgets to push. You lean back. The stone beneath you is warm from the sun, and your shoulders, freed for a moment from the posture expected of them, settle into something quieter. You close your eyes, just for a breath, maybe two. You do not sleep. You do not rest. But something inside you loosens, like a knot that's been pulled for too long, finally easing beneath the weight of stillness. The laurel branches creak, not loudly, just enough to remind you they're alive. You reach up and touch one, fingers brushing against the edge of a leaf. It's smooth, thicker than it looks. A survivor, stubborn and quiet, crowned not with fruit or flowers, but memory. You wonder, briefly, what it's seen. How many sandals? How many robes? How many voices that rose in anger, or broke in confession, or disappeared altogether into the heat? You let your hand fall. There's a crack in the tile near your foot, shaped like a river. You follow it with your eyes until it disappears beneath the roots of the tree, where dust and time gather in patient layers. The world moves fast out there. Scrolls need signing. Names need weighing. Armies shift like clouds. But here you are, only a man in a robe, breathing under a tree that does not care who you are. And for a moment, that is enough. You stay a little longer, not because you must, but because no one is asking you to leave. Not yet. And in this shade, beneath these leaves that never speak, you remember what it feels like to be unspoken, to simply exist, unwatched, unwritten, unruled. By the time you return to the inner chambers, the heat has thickened slightly, not with discomfort, but with the slow weight of a palace afternoon when the stones begin to warm from within, and every step echoes with a softness that feels less like sound and more like suggestion. A servant greets you with a tray figs. Again, their skins split open slightly from the sun, drizzled with honey, resting on folded cloth as if waiting for approval. You take one. You eat it slowly. The sweetness is immediate, rich, heavy, almost too much. You wipe your fingers on the edge of your robe and take another. The second doesn't land as well. There's a bitterness beneath it this time, something fermented, faint but sharp. You chew anyway, not because you want to, but because it's easier than asking for something different. A cup of water is offered, cool, metallic, with a slice of lemon resting on its surface like a coin waiting to be flipped. You sip. Your stomach shifts, not unpleasantly. Not yet. Just a small reminder that not even gods were meant to feast forever. You sit by the window, the curtain drawn halfway to dull the sun, and lean into the sliver of light that cuts across the floor like a blade made from gold. Outside, a bird lands briefly on the sill, eyes you, then vanishes again. No song, just presence. A knock at the door, soft, measured, familiar. The physician, or perhaps the one who watches your food more closely than your wounds. He bows, speaks briefly, mentions your complexion, the color beneath your eyes, the rate of your breath. You nod. He offers a small clay tablet wrapped in linen, a remedy, unnecessary, but expected. You take it. Let it sit in your palm for a moment before placing it on the table beside you. It leaves a faint dust behind, bitter, earthy. You don't move to take it. The physician speaks again, something about the late summer heat, or maybe the olives at last night's supper. You only half listen, not out of rudeness, but because your attention has wandered to the way your breath moves slow, even, but a little heavier now, like the weight of a crown you no longer wear, but still feel behind your temples. You dismiss him with a gentle gesture. He bows, leaves without sound. You lie back slightly, spine curved into the cushion of the chair, eyes half closed. The ache in your belly sharpens for a moment, then fades. Not pain, just pressure, just reminder, a hum that rises not from illness, but from a life so full it leaves no space for digestion. You think of the figs again, their sweetness, their hidden bite, how easily something beautiful becomes a burden when swallowed too quickly. The silence settles again. You let your hands fall into your lap. The cloth is soft beneath your palms, worn from touch, warmer than the air. You exhale slowly, the kind of breath that takes a little longer than you expect. You don't move. Not yet. And somewhere, far beyond this room, someone prepares the next course, another platter, another performance. But for now, you sit quietly in the half-light and let your body remind you that even emperors are flesh, and even gods get indigestion. The bathhouse waits behind arched doors and painted walls, steam curling lazily from its corners before you even enter. The air changes the moment you step inside thick, warm, almost wet with silence. A slow breath in brings the scent of rosemary, heated stone, and a faint trace of beeswax drifting from the lanterns above. Your robe slips from your shoulders without instruction, lifted by hands that vanish the moment the fabric is folded. You move forward, barefoot now, your feet pressing into the heated marble like ink onto parchment fluid, deliberate, impossible to erase. The water glows in the center of the room, still and deep, surrounded by columns that hold nothing but echo. You descend one step, then another, each movement slow enough to let the heat creep into your skin without shock. When you reach the bottom, the water reaches your chest, and the ache that has followed you since dawn finally begins to loosen its grip. Not disappear, just soften. Attendants remain at the edge of the pool, eyes down, bodies still, towels folded over their arms like offerings. They say nothing. You do not speak. Their presence is meant to feel invisible, but it never quite does. You can feel them. You always can. Watching, but never meeting your gaze. Breathing, but always quieter than you. You close your eyes. Let your head fall slightly back. The ceiling above is painted in stars you've never bothered to count gold against black, arranged by someone who believed order could be beautiful. A few have begun to flake. You wonder if anyone else notices. You doubt it. The water moves around you in soft pulses, disturbed only by your breath and the way your hands drift just beneath the surface. Open, loose, as if waiting to catch something that will never fall. You listen, not for voices, not for footfalls, but for the one moment that always comes when the room forgets what it's supposed to be, and simply becomes water and heat and breath. It doesn't last. A whisper rises near the column. A servant clears his throat, not loudly, but enough. A reminder. There's something else scheduled. There always is. A general who's arrived early. A petition waiting to be heard. A statue that cracked during transport. You don't react. Not yet. You remain seated in the water, surrounded by heat, pretending for one last minute that none of those things are yours to answer. You rise slowly. The water leaves your skin reluctantly, sliding down your arms in rivulets that disappear into the tiles without trace. A towel is offered before your hand lifts. It wraps around you, soft and dry and slightly too warm, and another replaces it before the first has even cooled. Robes are returned, the doors open, and just like that, the water forgets you were ever there. You walk back into the world of breathless questions, clean, but not lighter. You return to the central hall as the light begins to shift, not quite golden, not yet fading, but softened at the edges like parchment left too long in the sun. The corridor stretches ahead of you, wide and polished, its stillness more imposing now than it was at morning. There are no servants here, no guards lining the path, no advisors murmuring behind sleeves, just silence and space, and the sound of your own steps folding back toward you in quiet repetition. The throne room is already open, the doors pulled wide, held by no one, but waiting all the same. You pass beneath the carved lintel and step inside, and though the room is vast, domed, and bathed in pale afternoon light, it feels smaller than it should. The columns that circle the chamber rise tall and unbending, their surfaces painted with stories older than your name scenes, of triumph and justice, of divine right and blood-soaked glory. You have stopped reading them. Years ago. Maybe. Or perhaps you never did. The throne waits at the far end, high-backed, cold, crowned in bronze, draped in crimson cloth so rarely touched it still holds the folds from when it was first arranged. You walk toward it slowly, not because you must, but because you've learned that power is quietest when it does not rush. The steps that lead to it are shallow, only 3. You pause before the first. There is no one watching, and somehow, that feels heavier than a crowd. You ascend without ceremony, settle into the seat that holds your posture like it's been molded for your bones alone. It hasn't. The throne does not comfort. It does not give. It holds. It contains. It makes you smaller and larger all at once, grounding your body while stretching your shadow across the floor. You sit there for a while, not in thought, not in judgment, simply in stillness. The chamber does not ask anything of you in this moment. It only breathes through the wind that slips in through the high windows, through the golden dust that spins in slow spirals across the beams of light, through the faint creak of wood that isn't wood anymore. Just memory shaped into a chair, too sacred to change. You rest one hand on the arm, feel the carvings beneath your fingers. Laurel leaves, olive branches, a lion's head, all symbols of peace, all born of war. Your eyes drift to the doors across the room, still open, still waiting. A servant might appear at any moment, a messenger, a voice with another request, another name, another judgment. But for now, the doorway remains empty. The silence remains yours. You close your eyes, let your shoulders fall half an inch, and for a moment, not long, but long enough, you let yourself feel what the throne never offers aloud. loneliness. That strange, echoing stillness that comes not from isolation, but from being the one thing everyone faces, but no one sees. You open your eyes again. The room hasn't changed. The weight hasn't lifted. And still you rise, quietly, calmly, without sound. Because even when no one is watching, the Emperor stands. The sun is lower now, casting long shadows across the outer grounds, where noise returns, not the quiet shuffle of sandals on marble, but the deep-throated roar of a crowd gathering in expectation. The air is different here, thicker with dust, heat, and the scent of iron. You walk slowly down the corridor leading to the arena box, where banners ripple from tall poles and voices swell like ocean waves against stone. A servant opens the door before you reach it, his head bowed, his eyes fixed on the floor. You nod, once, then step inside. The arena is vast, bigger than any room in your palace, hungrier. From this high perch, you can see it all, the sand below, raked to perfection, smooth as untouched parchment, but only for now. Wooden gates stand shut on either end, holding back the first pair of competitors. You don't know their names. You rarely do. That's not what the crowd comes for. They cheer not for men, but for spectacle, for survival, for the illusion of justice meted out in muscle and sweat and blood. You sit. The cushions here are softer, but the view is sharp. A man behind you clears his throat, then begins reciting names, offenses, sponsors. You barely listen. Your eyes are on the sand. On the way, the sun tilts across the far wall, casting a golden haze that makes the edge of everything feel slightly unreal. A trumpet sounds, low, prolonged. The gate creaks open. The first figure steps forward, bare-chested, armored only at the shoulders, a curved blade in one hand. He walks slowly, carefully, his eyes scanning the perimeter as if seeking something more than escape. You wonder, briefly, what he sees when he looks up. Do you appear to him as a man or a sentence? The second gate opens. Another enters lighter, quicker, with a spear and a grin that seems too confident to last. The crowd rises. Somewhere, a coin is tossed, a wager made, a prayer whispered to a god that favors blood. The match begins. You watch without flinching. You've learned not to. The movements are fast, practiced, almost beautiful in their cruelty. Dust rises. Steel flashes. The first strike lands hard. Then another. The crowd roars. But you remain still, not out of coldness, but because you must. Here, even your reaction is part of the game. One of them falls, hard, convincing. The other waits, breathing heavily, shoulders rising and falling like waves against a shore. He looks up, toward you. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. Everyone knows what comes next. You lift your hand, just slightly open palm, steady wrist. The crowd interprets before the gesture is even complete. A mixture of cheers and groans follows, some disappointed, others thrilled. Mercy is rare. Today, it's granted. You don't feel kind, only tired. The fallen man is dragged away. Another match begins, then another. You lose track. The light changes again, softer now, tinged with that pinkish hue that means the day has begun to die. A girl carries in a tray of fruit, untouched. A senator says something to your left, some small joke about the last man's footwork. You nod, but don't smile. The sounds blur into one another, the clash of weapons, the breathless pauses. The cries of the crowd rising and breaking like waves on rock. And in the center of it all, the sand turns darker. It always does. By the time you stand, the shadows are long. The crowd begins to thin. The winners have their glory. For now, the losers leave in silence, or not at all. You step back into the corridor. The air cooler now. The world quieter. Only your own steps accompany you as you return to the palace. And still, behind your eyes, the dust dances and the cheers echo. The corridors are darker now, not silent, not empty, but dim in that deliberate way the palace shifts when day gives way to uncertainty. Torches flicker at intervals, casting long shadows that stretch and collapse as you pass, shadows that move like things half remembered, like thoughts that follow too closely. You walk without speaking, without looking back. The sound of your footsteps is muffled by soft slippers now, chosen not for comfort, but for the way they quiet your presence, as if even the stone must forget you're here. A servant waits by the door of your chamber, holding a lit candle in a brass holder. The flame steady despite the breeze. He bows, but doesn't rise until the latch clicks shut behind you. You're alone now, or as alone as you're ever allowed to be. The room is diamondly 3 candles lit, each placed in a corner like sentries watching from the dark. The bed remains untouched. The scrolls have been removed. The window is half open, letting in the scent of night cool, dry, with a hint of something metallic that always clings to Roman dusk. You breathe in slowly. The candlelight plays tricks on the walls. Patterns form, shift, vanish. You know this is only the flame, only your tiredness. And still, your eyes follow them. You cross the room, pour a small measure of wine from a clay vessel into your own cup. No servants, no witnesses, just the quiet sound of liquid meeting clay. You take one sip, then another. It tastes darker now, not spoiled, just tired, like something that's been waiting too long to be finished. You sit by the window. No cushion, no scroll, no ceremony, just the stone, cool beneath you, grounding you in a way nothing else can. The view is partial, a sliver of the forum, the tip of a column, a flicker of torchlight in some distant archway, and further still, the city stretches beyond your sight, full of movement, stories, betrayal, laughter. You listen for it. You hear none of it. Only the wind. Only the occasional creak of a shutter. The flap of a banner not yet taken down. You think, for a moment, that you hear footsteps outside the chamber. Too soft. Too brief. You wait. Nothing. Just the wind again. You set your cup down slowly. Look toward the heavy curtain. The small table. The candle nearest the door has begun to lean its wax, forming slow rivers down the base. You watch it. Too long. Then blink. Your shoulders tighten, though you don't know why. Maybe it's the silence. Maybe it's the way the flame moves. Maybe it's the fact that you don't remember who lit the 3rd candle. You stand, walk to the bed, pull the cover back slowly. The linen is fresh, the pillow cold. You sit on the edge, hands resting on your knees. You do not lie down yet. You do not exhale fully. Instead, you watch the door, the handle, the shadow it casts on the floor, and for the first time all day, you feel it. Not the crown, not the duty, the fear, that soft, quiet fear that hums beneath everything when the corridors grow quiet and the noise of empire gives way to to the silence of your own name echoing back at you through an empty room. You lie down, finally, but your eyes stay open just a little longer because candlelight flickers, and sometimes it speaks. The final candle burns low now, its wick curled like a question mark in the quiet, the last thread of flame licking at wax that no longer holds shape. You lie still beneath the weight of the linen sheet, thin and fine and tucked so precisely it feels more like ritual than rest. The room has stilled, truly stilled, not just in sound, but in presence. No footsteps now, no flick of fabric, no creak of hinges, just the hush of night pressing gently against the walls, as if the world itself is holding its breath to see if you'll let yours go. Your eyes remain open, not wide, not afraid, just watchful. The ceiling above you is shadowed, painted in shifting grays that only candlelight can create. You follow the shapes, not with curiosity, but with the kind of tired familiarity that comes from years of seeing the same dance and never quite remembering how it begins. Somewhere in the palace, a shutter clicks against stone. A breeze moves through a corridor you cannot see. And still, you do not turn your head. You breathe slowly now, not because you're calm, but because there is nothing else left to do. The thoughts don't crowd the way they once did. They drift now, soft and half-formed. A name you signed earlier, a fig that tasted slightly wrong, a face in the arena who looked too young to bleed like that, the memory of a statue with your nose, waiting for its inscription. These things don't hurt anymore. They simply stay and float. Your fingers rest atop the sheet, relaxed. One twitches, maybe from dream, maybe from the body reminding you that it's still yours. No matter how much of it belongs to marble and myth, you shift slightly. The pillow sighs beneath you, a familiar sound, a comfort, perhaps, or at least a silence you've come to accept. Your eyes begin to close, not all at once, but slowly, one breath at a time. The room folds into darkness, piece by piece, first the window, then the shelf, then the candle. Now nothing but a faint orange thread trembling into black. And still you listen, for a voice, for a knock, for the quiet truth that no one dares say aloud, that even now, even here, even at the end of the longest day, your reign does not sleep. It only waits. You shift once more, deeper now, into the weight of the mattress, the echo of your own body letting go, bit by bit, not into peace, not into safety, but into stillness. That gentle stillness that feels almost like sleep, or something like it.